like this in your register, a box, and then divide it into three parts. Divide it into three parts. First part and second part and third part. Very simply, you will write organization, then you will write founder and personalities, and then you'll write main idea. Thereafter, whatever organization I'm going to do today, for example, I'm giving you a very simple example. For example, what the first one which we'll do is, for example, Atmiya Sabha. Atmiya Sabha. The person who is associated with is Raja Ram Mohan Roy. And thereafter, main idea, you just write the critique of temple rituals. And that's it. All the information I give you today, all of it, you just have to condense it like this. And I want you to do it because first you will do it with me and then you'll make this. So twice you will do it, automatically it will come to your mind and it will become easy for you to learn this. You can make it. If you want to share it with me, you can always email me. This is more than enough for mains. Mains, the question is going to be reasons. It's not going to be the write a short note on Brahmo Samaj or write a short note. They will talk about how they impact, that is technically the impact of social justice reform movement, or they'll ask you specific things. Still, facts you need to know. Facts you need to know. So that is why I'm asking you very simply, follow this table model for 2 modules today, which is this module and the next, which is peasant tribal. Tribal, I've already made a table for you. In this, which is social justice reform, and that you just have to make this type of things. What is to be mentioned in the founder / personalities, meaning, for example, there is, for example, in Brahmo Samaj, not 1 but 3 personalities. Raja Ram Mohan Roy, K.C. Sen, and Debendranath Tagore. Same way, you would then have multiple personalities to Prarthana Samaj. So you just basically, for you, the basic point is, you just add it, and I can guarantee to you, you don't have to worry in that sense. We have seen one question come out of this whole area in mains, that too 4 or 5 years back. That too, it was a very generic question, and prelims questions are mostly about founder, this and that. So I'll telling you the purpose. Next 2 modules are heavy, though there is no basic indication that UPSC will ask 2-3 questions out of this area. So we just have to do it. We have to be smart about it, and I hope that we can be in that sense. Can we now begin a discussion, and we'll be smart with our decision and smart with our way in which we deal with this area, right? Perfect. Now, the first most important, now we are starting with the reformists, and the only organization which is considered very, very extensive or has a lot of different actors is what we call as Brahmo Samaj. So let me give you a basic overview. If you understand the overview, we'll go to the PPT itself. The overview is very simple. Raja Ram Mohan Roy was a very important personality, very learned person. 6 different languages he knew, born to a very wealthy family also. He knew Arabic, he knew Persian, he used to read different types of religious documents also. He knew the Bible, he knew the Quran, very learned personality. And in this process, therefore, he started to develop a very alternative way of thinking, which we call as Brahmoism. Brahmoism. Now, he initially was a scribe. Scribe means he used to write letters for the East India Company. He was employed with the East India Company. But as soon as he started to understand what was really happening, then he gave up. He left the service of the British, and thereafter started to look at the critique of the British and the missionaries, and developed his own understanding of what we call as Brahmoism. So Brahmoism is something which is considered a new type of understanding of Hinduism. Though if you will go into the nitty-gritty of it, you will realize that it is more or less a Just an emphasis shift. Just an emphasis shift. So the first major organization, and I'll put in the details. Don't worry. The first major organization based on Brahmoism, which talked about no idol worship, which was to critique the temple, no god worship in the form of an idol, the concept of a formless god, universal brotherhood, the fact that everybody was the same irrespective of their religion. These ideas will become very, very central to Brahmoism. The concept of one God, so that everybody can look up to that one God. So Brahmoism, not something really new. It's technically called Nirgun Sapna, which is that Sagun, Sa means yes, Gun means quality. So Sa, Gun, Nirgun means no quality. So though Brahmoism is something not very new, because Bhakti movement also talked about a lot of these things. The first organization which he produced is called the Atmiya Sabha. The Atmiya Sabha. Though Atmiya Sabha more or less, monoism means one God. So Atmiya Sabha more or less was a very informal organization which he was himself associated with. It used to happen at his home. They used to talk about how the real knowledge of India, the real knowledge of religion was in the Upanishads. And the Vedic corpus, when we'll discuss art and culture with me, when you will discuss with me, the Vedic corpus actually is not one, but 8 different books. So you have Rig Veda, Sam, Yajur, Atharv. Then you have subsidiary books. Aranyaka, you have the Brahmana, the concept of Samhita. But the last book of the Vedic corpus is called Upanishad. And Upanishads are mostly called Vedant or Vedantic philosophy. Why are they called Vedant? Vedo ka ant, Vedant. The last book of Vedas, Vedant. So Ant, end, Veda, Veda end, Upanishad. There is the word which comes through. We don't have to discuss Vedas here. We will discuss that in art and culture. But the basic point is they said that the real knowledge of India, and this is the confusing part about the reformist trend of Raja Ram Mohan Roy, that he's talking about going back to a text which is called Upanishads, but he becomes very close to the Vedantic philosophy, and he believes that the Brahmins had distorted all the image and all the vision and interpreted the text in the wrong way. So Atmiya Sabha, very informal organization, exists for a very close to 6-7 years, and thereafter it stops. But the next organization, which was produced by Raja Ram Mohan Roy, was called Brahmo Samaj. Now please pay attention. I'm going to make a flow chart. Very important. Very important for your examination. So Brahmo Samaj was the successor of the Atmiya Sabha, and it will be started by Raja Ram Mohan Roy. RRMR, not RRR, but RRMR, which is Raja Ram Mohan Roy. Now, Raja Ram Mohan Roy will start Brahmo Samaj, basic core philosophy, Brahmoism. However, in the process of the Brahmo Samaj becoming bigger and bigger, one personality will get associated with him, who is Debendranath Tagore. Debendranath Tagore. He is the father of Rabindranath Tagore. Debendranath Tagore. And Debendranath Tagore had his own organization which is called the Tattva Bodhini Sabha. However, again, Tattva Bodhini Sabha was more or less useless. So Debendranath Tagore will get associated with the Brahmo Samaj initially. He will become after Raja Ram Mohan Roy, he will actually become the successor, the most important teacher, the guru of Brahmo Samaj. But over a period of time, see, the problem with Debendranath Tagore was that he was very forward looking, but he was obsessed by, and everything I'm saying is written in the PPT, he was obsessed by the way the missionaries used to critique Indian society. He didn't like the way the missionaries used to critique Indian society. Therefore, his major agenda was to show to the missionaries, whatever I'm writing on the screen is important for your preparation, to show to the missionaries that basically Indian society is more than what you see it is. And he has a little bit of a conservative streak. He wants to destroy the caste system. He wants to destroy the Varna system. He is a little bit open about it, but he's still not very comfortable, not very, very comfortable with the concept of sacred thread being removed, which is the concept of the Geneva, which is the sacred thread. He's not very comfortable with the intercaste marriages. So he's a little bit conservative, which is there, which is problem with Devendranath Tagore is that he's a little bit conservative. But he will bring into this organization a very important personality in the larger context of Brahmo Samaj, who is called K.C. Sen, Kesab Chandra Sen. K.C. Sen, again a very towering personality within Bengal itself. He was very radical. He will make the Brahmo Samaj spread. Brahmo Samaj will spread to the eastern sector. He will be the inspiration for what we call as the Prarthana Samaj. But K.C. Sen was too radical. He's too radical because he is talking now about intercaste marriages, the concept of burning the sacred thread. So he is now making Debendranath Tagore a little bit uncomfortable intercaste marriages. So he is technically making Debendranath Tagore a little bit uncomfortable. K.C. Sen, Kesab Chandra Sen. You don't have to worry. He will turn out to be a very big hypocrite. That's a separate issue altogether. But there will be a rising tension between these two personalities, which is that he will have a conservative streak. And he's a little bit too radical. And what is going to happen is that the conflict between these two will in turn lead to the first split in the Brahmo Samaj into two organizations called the Brahmo Samaj of India, which is the K.C. Sen faction, and what is called the Adi Brahmo Samaj, which is Devendranath Tagore. Now, basically, none of them are original. They are both two factions which are created. Original being Brahmo Samaj under Raja Ram Mohan Roy. Devendranath Tagore will get associated. K.C. Sen will thereafter come in. He will radicalize the whole organization. Devendranath Tagore will remove him as the Acharya, and that will in turn lead to two different factions, which is called Brahmo Samaj of India and Adi Brahmo Samaj. Now, the problem in this story is that Adi Brahmo Samaj over a period of time will become redundant. Because basically, till Debendranath Tagore is alive, he will keep going after the missionaries. He will become even more and more conservative within this organization. And this organization, with his death, will more or less end. It will end with his death. And basically, nobody wanted to follow the Adi Brahmo Samaj. It's a redundant organization, has a base or an ideology which makes no sense only. Now what is going to happen is that K.C. Sen will take the mantle forward, but he will turn out to be the biggest hypocrite. Redundant means useless. It will become useless after his death. Now, how will K.C. Sen turn out to be the biggest hypocrite, or technically the contradictory to what he was preaching, is that he'll marry his minor daughter to the Raja of Cooch Behar. So he's doing two things, which is first, minor daughter child marriage, and second, he was marrying it to a major Raja. Therefore, the people within the K.C. Sen organization will become very, very disillusioned. And there will be another split which is going to happen. And basically, the two organizations which will come out, Firstly, Brahmo Samaj of India will be there. Brahmo Samaj of India. Brahmo Samaj of India will go on with Sen as the most important personality. Later, it will become redundant also. But what survives till today, is called the Sadharan. Sadharan Brahmo Samaj. And this is the organization which survives till today. So basically, when we talk about the Brahmo Samaj, there are certain people who are associated to it, and there are certain movements. So are you able to basically understand the larger picture? Because larger picture is important for me. Other things don't matter. I will go into the nitty-gritty. I'll give you as much detail as you want. But for the organization, this is the most important. I will again revise it with you. I'll make it again. But I want you to now pay attention. I'll write everybody's name down again. And we can revise and then move on. Can we do that? Because there is nothing more in this story. Ideology I will discuss when when I'll talk about Brahmoism, but there's nothing here. See, so very simply, 1 second. Yeah, let's do the revision. Who are the people associated? Raja Ram Mohan Roy, Devendra Nath Tagore, Kesab Chandra Sen. Keshav Chandra Sen. Now, simple. There is Brahmo Samaj. Brahmo Samaj will split up into two parts. Brahmo Samaj of India and Adi Brahmo Samaj. And this will then further split up into two. Brahmo Samaj of India and Sadharan Brahmo Samaj. Aims are standard, which is stopping child marriage, promoting widow remarriage. I will discuss that with you. These are basically things that are totally different. You need to understand basic facts with me. If you're able to create this structure, I'll put in the facts into the story. If you understand this structure, 90% of the task is done. Any issues in here? Anybody? Come on. We can agree to this. You can remember these points at least. No issues. Perfect. So let's go into the story itself. Now, as I said, there's a standard rule. Don't have to get caught up in any of these stories. Does not really matter to you. But let's enjoy. That's the basic point. Okay. So, Raja Ram Mohan Roy, born in 1772 in Hooghly district, Bengal. His father followed a very important Bhakti saint from the Bengal sector, which is Chaitanya. And his mother was a worshipper of divine female power, Shakti cult, which is Durga Ma. His family was technically an elite Persian Hindu. Basically, they knew, because they were associated with the courts and the Nawabs, they knew Persian quite well. Hindus, but very elite. He knew the major languages at this point of time: Sanskrit, Arabic, English, Latin, French, Greek, Hebrew. Hebrew is the language of the Jews. Don't have to learn. I already told you, don't have to learn it. Creating a picture. What you needed to learn, I already showed it to you. Right? Are you getting my point? Please understand the purpose. Today, if you will not understand the purpose, you will get caught up somewhere. We don't have to make it hard for us. We will be very, very straightforward in what we are doing. Okay. So, Raja Ram Mohan Roy, born into a very elite family, knows languages, perfect, worked as a private banker, and then 9 years for the East India Company, technically a clerical position. Then he understood the problems of colonial rule itself, and in November of 1830 left to England. And before he did all of this, which is Brahmo Samaj, Adi Brahmo Samaj, this and that, he will then later die in 1833 in England itself. And that is the story of Raja Ram Mohan Roy. Now, what is Raja Ram Mohan Roy? Elite means very wealthy person. What is the major ideology which Raja Ram Mohan Roy actually embodies? He believes in 2-3 standard things, that monoism, which is one God, and the fact that there is no idols, which is formless God. Formless God is something he wanted to pick up from Islam. He believed the love and the personal devotion aspect of Sufi. I will discuss all of this with you when I will discuss medieval India, what is Sufism, what is Bhaktism. Just assume for right now, Sufis are the Bhaktis of Islam. And he thought that ethical teachings of Christianity, the 9 commandments, are very, very important. So he wanted to take the following from different religions. And thereafter, he started to now develop his own understanding. So he started to say that the priests, these Brahmins, are the ones who are misinterpreting our scriptures. We need to change our understanding. He will start to now translate the Vedas and the 5 Upanishads, though there are 18 more, most important, 5 of them, into Bengali and English. He will now attack caste system and rigidities. He will also reject the fact that Christianity is better. And he will then help in 1817 David Hare to set up the Hindu college to propagate Hindu religion itself. Now understand one thing, all of them have the same agenda. Whoever it may be, all of them have the same agenda, which is caste system is bad, Varna system is bad, widow remarriage, child marriage, he is very specific to child marriage is bad, and he is specific to Sati. He is specific to Sati. Now, thereafter, this is the Hindu college in Calcutta, not in Delhi, obviously. Now, he will also write certain important books, such as he will talk about various religions in light of reason and social comfort in what is called the Tufatul Muwaddin, 1805. Then he wrote what is called a gift to a monotheist. Thereafter, he will then create a bilingual Brahmanical magazine to express his opinions, which will be later called Sambad Comedy, which is a Bengali weekly, and it's pro-reformist. So basically, he's going to talk about reform out of these organizations. So again, literary, what we call as contributions, certain his understandings are based on certain basic notions. He is a very towering figure. He is considered the father of Indian Renaissance, which is Indian resurgence of culture itself. And Raja Ram Mohan Roy himself, when he was alive, the ideology of Brahmoism was important. However, later it will get distorted. Again, don't have to get caught up. Now, as I said, in 1817, he will help David Hare in establishing the Calcutta Hindu College. Then the Anglo-Hindu school in 1822. Again, don't have to learn this. Just listen to me. Nothing more, nothing less. Then the Vedanta College in 1825, where he will start to teach mechanics, Voltaire's philosophy, Greek philosophy. And in the end, by 1830, before he went to England, he will help Alexander Duff establish Scottish Church College. So basically, he is helping them organize what are called Western education concepts. I will give that to you, Parth, separately. Which books and journals are important, I will give that to you separately. Don't have to learn it here. Now, Western education and concepts will be introduced through this. However, his first important organization or the manifestation of that is the Atmiya Sabha, 1815. And he will establish an organizational base, though very informal, used to happen at his own house. The fact of the matter was very simple. They used to sing different scriptures. Dwarkanath Tagore, which is the grandfather of Rabindranath Tagore, or the father of Debendranath Tagore, was also there. Certain very important personalities, Nand Kishore Bose, you have Brindaban Mitra, don't have to learn this, do not learn. But just to tell you that all important figures used to be there. They all denounced the concept of Hindu orthodoxy, that the temple and the way the Pandits are interpreting scripture is wrong. But within 4 years of its existence, it will become redundant. But what comes after the Atmiya Sabha is more important, which is Brahmo Samaj. It will be thereafter established 9 years after the closure of Atmiya Sabha in 1828, and thereafter a lot of different personalities will get associated with it. Open to everyone, but it had a conservative streak. Bengali Brahmins came up. No membership fee, no formal organization. But the Sabhas used to be organized in their own building by 1830. So he was now creating a proper concept itself. However, what is more important to us is that what is the ideology? Atmiya Sabha is also Raja Ram Mohan Roy. What is the ideology? The ideology of Brahmoism is first the concept of Nirgun Sapna, which is formless one God. That basically all religions are the same. There's one God who has no form and everybody is linked to it. It discarded the concept of divine avatars, the concept of Dashavatar of Vishnu, saying that all of that is to distort religion itself. Purpose was to purify Hinduism. Now you see, this is the problem with a reformist. The concept of purification is something very specific to revivalists. But his understanding of purification was to move forward and discard. Whilst a revivalist would say the other way around, which is move to the original form. Move to the original form. Promoted monotheism, one God. And they said that the two pillars of reason were the Vedas and Upanishads, but they were more inclined towards Upanishads or the Vedantic philosophy. Now, a lot of people will get associated. Upanishads is a set of books which come as the last book of the Vedic book set. A lot of people get associated with it. Kesab Chandra Sen, Devendranath Tagore, Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar also from time to time. You have different very towering figures such as Tara Chandra Chakrabarti, who was also the first secretary. But who is more important to us is Devendranath Tagore, because he had founded his own organization called Tattvabodhini Sabha. He used to talk about reform via the Tattvabodhini Patrika. And after Roy's death, he will become the head of Brahmo Samaj. And he will now start to talk about something which was just contrary to what Brahmoism was. That Hindu scriptures were infallible. Infallible means that they were sacred. And this is the basic problem. Raja Ram Mohan Roy argued that there is no sacred text. All texts are sacred. But he will start to say, no, Vedas are the most sacred text. And he will now start to get more and more obsessed with the Vedic philosophy. However, the person who he brings in is going to change it. So the Samaj, some of you asked me, what did it do? Support widow remarriage, abolition of polygamy, which is multiple wives to one husband. Women's education was promoted. Superstitions and rituals were removed. Samaj was now becoming more and more interesting as an organization because it was talking about reform. However, one Kesab Chandra Sen will get associated. Then the things will start to change, because within the organization itself, he will organize a Sangat Sabha, his own core group of thinkers. And his disciples will now start to become more and more radical. And once his radical group will start to abandon caste and sacred thread itself, Brahmoism thereafter will produce the conservative philosophy of Brahmoism, but Kesab Chandra Sen was too radical for it. Are you understanding why Kesab Chandra Sen is a problem? Kesab Chandra Sen is a problem because Brahmoism talks about reform, but not totally abandoning everything. Devendranath Tagore was like, okay, we understand that Hinduism there's a problem, but we don't need to change the structure. He's conservative. He wants status quo. However, Kesab Chandra Sen will say, no. Everything needs to be dismantled. Everything needs to be destroyed. And therefore, what is going to happen is that in 1862 and 64, first they will perform an intercaste marriage, which was again unacceptable to Devendranath Tagore. And thereafter, an intercaste marriage along with burning of the sacred thread in the same marriage meant that it was too much for Devendranath Tagore. And therefore, the first split will happen in 1865, which is Kesab Chandra Sen will leave and make the Brahmo Samaj of India, and Devendranath Tagore will make his Adi Brahmo Samaj. The Samaj weekly will be conducted at Tagore's residence. Sacred thread will not be allowed in case of Chandra Sen's faction. Devendranath Tagore will more or less be extremely conservative. He was the one who led to this split itself. But as I said, he was too conservative to take this forward, and this will become redundant over a period of time. He will just go after missionary after missionary after missionary, but nothing too radical. On the other hand, the Brahmo Samaj of India, which was created by Sen himself, will now start to expand into the eastern sector, the Gangatic sector. But Sen himself will start to feel like God. He will now start to feel that he himself is God. And what blunder he will do is that he will marry his own daughter, minor daughter, to the Raja Kuch of Bihar, which is technically a princely state, a Raja literally. And his followers will then technically stop believing in him, and they will form the Sadharan Brahmo Samaj, and the Brahmo Samaj of India will thereafter more or less become redundant. Sadharan Brahmo Samaj still exists and till today follows this concept. It was the concept of helping people. Das ashrams further took it to South India, even to England and America. And as of right now, if you want to go and check out Brahmo Samaj, this is the Brahmo Samaj which you will find, which is Sadharan Brahmo Samaj. Now, as I said, no other stories as elaborate as this, because all are very straightforward. But again, I will revise with you and we can move on. You understand that this is going to be the protocol. I will give you the basic concept. Thereafter, I will read the PPT out to you. Don't have to get caught up into it, just have to enjoy. And once you've enjoyed it, then we move to the next one. We will be smart. We will just keep on creating the boxes for anybody who has entered late or came late. The way to undercut this section is very simple, which is to create boxes like this: organization, founder, personality, main idea. Simple. If I had to make, for example, Brahmo Samaj, I will make Brahmo Samaj. Then I will add Raja Ram Mohan Roy, K.C. Sen, and I will write Devendranath Tagore, and thereafter I will Tagore, and thereafter I will write here basic idea Brahmoism, and you can write the concept of monoism, the fact that they rejected scriptures, and then 2-3 points here maximum. Then I will go and write Brahmo Samaj of India. I will write Brahmo or Adi Brahmo Samaj. And then I will write Sadharan Brahmo Samaj. I will write here K.C. Sen, Devendranath Tagore. And here I will write none because none took it forward. And thereafter basic ideology: radical, conservative, and what exists today. You just have to sit with the PPT once and you will be able to make this within half an hour, right? Are you getting my point? This way you have condensed all the data. You will not have to open the PPT again. Just have to go into your, and my very important suggestion to you would be, make it and paste it on your wall. So that from time to time, when you're going around, you're moving around in your room, in your study table, you look at them from time to time, because there's no one who can learn all of them, but it needs to be done in a systematic manner, So just make the box, paste it. Getting my point? Okay. And very simply, I want you to make it. Could have easily made it, but I want you to make it because that is a second revision. Second revision, please understand this. That second revision is going to happen when you will make this box. Once you make this box, automatically you will remember everything. We've done it here. We do it in the second time. Okay. You want to take a screenshot for this? You take a screenshot for this. Take a screenshot for this. 3 points. See, the more you put it, the more you add it. Again, Anand Mohan Bose, I don't want to add anything. I will not put names which I don't want to learn. Remember, there is a limit to your learning. Need to know that. Brahmo Samaj will split up into Brahmo Samaj of India and Adi Brahmo Samaj because of the way Kesab Chandra Sen and Debendranath Tagore will not come along, and thereafter KC Sen will turn out to be hypocrite. So thereafter Sadharan Brahmo Samaj and Brahmo Samaj of India. Raja Ram Mohan Roy is not that conservative. The problem is Debendranath Tagore is. Debendranath Tagore is. Right? Can we move to the next one, everyone? Yes? Okay. Yeah, one split due to ideological conflict, second split due to marriage of his daughter. Perfect, very good. Now, as I said, please bear with this. There's no other process. The next most important reformer which comes from Bengal, is actually linked to the Hindu college itself, is a person called Henry Vivian Derozio. Derozio was a Portuguese. He was actually a Portuguese who taught at the Hindu college between 26 to 31. But the problem of Henry Vivian Derozio is that he's too radical for his own time. Though when he was alive, he was not supported by a lot of people. But when he died, his students created what we call as Young India movement. So while Derozio was alive, there was nothing really which was done. He was not given the recognition he talked about. But the problem of Derozio and his followers, Young India movement, was that they now started to talk about one thing, which is that they got influenced by the French idea, the French Revolution and all. They started to ask for a word which was not known in India at this point of time, which is freedom. Basically, their radical thoughts of freedom and liberty was something which will make them very, very problematic. And though they are talking about a lot of good things, Young India movement also, Henry Vivian Derozio also, in 1826, for people to get associated with the Young India movement will become extremely problematic. So basically, though they were very important and critiquing British rule, they were understanding what is happening in the British rule. Their major downfall or their drawback was that nobody wanted to get associated. Because there's a major conservative streak in the Indian society at this point of time. People would rather get associated with the concept of helping the British than actually becoming too radical. And that is why, though they used to call themselves Young India initially, we actually remember them as Young Bengal, because they never went outside Bengal. They used to call themselves Young India after a concept of Mazzini and Garibaldi, which I will discuss with you when we'll talk about Italian unification. So we remember them as Young Bengal, but they themselves identified themselves as Young India. And the problem was that their radicalism limited them to Bengal and thereafter even made them redundant during this period. So Henry Vivian Derozio is very, 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 very radical, but too radical for his own time. And he's writing poems about how India needs to get freedom. And the basic point is his ideas of freedom and liberty is what will technically take him down. So he starts as a very radical personality, but his Young Bengal movement, as we call them, but they used to always write in their own text, Young India. The point is, Young Bengal movement thereafter more or less faded away. So they were talking about now you see, listen to the word. Radical means you want change very quickly. They were talking about the concept of the authority of the British in India. With what authority does the British be in India? They said that Indians should enter high posts. They also said that public education should also be about socio-political economic questions. So they were taking Raja Ram Mohan Roy's ideas forward. But what they wanted was equality and freedom. Now, I want you to sit in the shoes of a person who is there in 1826 And do you really think that a person in 1826-31 would actually ask the British for their authority? Please try to put yourself in that concept. We will ask for the same things later. But as of 1826, nobody wanted to be associated with them. Too radical, the British will come after you. So you don't even touch this organization. Don't touch this organization. Though they produced a lot of important texts. So Derozio's students started the Young Bengal movement, published few articles such as and quite a lot of them, which is Prarthana, do not learn. What is called the Ganesan, the Enquirer, Hindu Pioneer, Quill, Bengal Spectator, all talking about the unequal political status between the natives and the Europeans, basically interpreting colonialism. And therefore, by the time we come to 1830s, 40s, the society will be talking about polygamy, caste prejudice, child marriage, standard processes. But failure is society was not ready to accept propaganda, lack of patronage, support to public middle class very less, and more or less too radical for their own period. Now, what do you need to learn here? You learn here only two things. Henry Vivian Derozio, Young Bengal, that is the known name, though Young India they used to call themselves, Young Bengal movement, and they critiqued colonialism and asked for freedom. Can you put this in a box and keep it with you? Three things I'm asking you to learn. I will write it down what you need to put it, but I want you to put it because it becomes an important part of your process of learning. So Henry Vivian Derozio, Young Bengal movement, critique of colonialism, asked for freedom. Now, after this comes a very, very, very important personality, Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar. Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar is one person who is known as the champion of women's issues. And he, at the same point of time, was two very important things in Indian history. Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar was known for, firstly, that he, girls' education, and women's education were two issues he was very close with. But he was further also very close to the concept of how Bengali language and Sanskrit language went forward. So he is equally an important person when it comes to women's education, girls' education, also related to widow remarriage, because he created the pressure. But ironically, the Bengali primer means how the teacher teaches how to write in Bengali. Basically, the modern Bengali language, the primer which the teachers use to teach the students, which is the basic guide how to write Bengali and how to learn Bengali, was actually and still the one which Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar created. So he is the person who emancipated women. Emancipation means freedom to women. Promoted girls' education. 35 girls' schools were created under him, some of them out of his own pocket. When he was the government's inspector of schools, he was instrumental in creating the educational institutions for girls. He will also help Bethune establish the Bethune school and become a secretary of that. He was against polygamy, one husband, multiple wives. And he, due to his efforts, by 1856, Vidyasagar produced or helped in the passing of the Widow Remarriage Act. But equally important, on the other side of the story, is that he was the principal of Sanskrit College. And he did two very important things with regards to that. Opened the gates for Sanskrit College to all castes, all varnas. And he was the one who said that we don't need to reject Western education. Sanskrit and Western education can go together. And therefore, he created Therefore he created the concept of the concept of fees, concept of admission fees, and merit-based entry, rather than the concept of people paying money or getting favors to enter the school. It was about merit. So he opened the gates for Sanskrit college to non-Brahmin students. Sanskrit was studied along with Western education. He found the concept of the entry into schools via merit, and he is also the one who developed the new Bengali primer, which is the prose style in which Bengali is written today. Whatever is Bengali today is because of Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar. Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar. Now, Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar, Bengali primer, widow, girl. I will give you the basic things, you go and put in the box. But his ideology goes beyond it. His ideology goes beyond it, because as much as he's an educationist and social reformer, as much as he's a modernist and believed in liberal ideas, he went after Hindu orthodoxy, the concept of polygamy, the concept of sati and child marriage, and he was really opposed to the concept of caste distinction. Now tell me one thing, because I want to point out something to you which you can develop as your trick. Are all of them talking about different things or the same thing? Are all of them talking about the same thing or different things? They all are talking about the same thing. So basically, if a question comes, if you know the basic details, which is Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar, this, that, can't you write an answer because all of them are writing the same thing or talking about the same thing? So if you write about caste, if you write about women, if you write about child marriage, if you write about widow remarriage, basically the catch here is their core issues remain the same. Their core issues remain the same. Doesn't really matter who it is. So be it Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar, be it Derozio, be it Raja Ram Mohan Roy, and you will see further as we go, all of them are talking about the same thing only. Same. Only the name is changing of the person. Right? Okay. Before we go to Prarthana, what do we put into our list? What do we put into our list? We put in this. Now we add Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar, child education, girl education, widow remarriage, women's education, and Bengali primer. Can you put it into this? He has no organization as such. So in the box, when you make it, just put dash here and then Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar and his basic concepts. You want to say caste system, you add caste system. The right hand side is going to become the same all across. This box will look the similar in everyone with minor changes. Are you getting the way or getting the point of this discussion? This is the Bengali primer, Bengali prose concept. This is the only way you can conquer this area. You cannot go and learn each and every organization. What you can do is basically create a repository of all personalities, look at it, learn it, and then if the question comes, 150, 250 words is not a lot of words. You just create a story that he talked about child marriage, widow remarriage, this, that, all will be true in that sense. Basically, all will be true in that sense. And I'll give you a question in the end, don't worry also. Okay, now we move to Prarthana Samaj. Prarthana Samaj is basically a Samaj which was inspired by Brahmo Samaj, and whilst Kesab Chand Sen had influence over it, however, yes, Kiran, yes, why not? However, the Prarthana Samaj and Brahmo Samaj were there's a major difference between the two, which is because persons such as M.G. Ranade, Mahadev Govind Ranade were associated with it. They knew that we don't have to become too radical. So the strength of this organization was basically that we will not become too radical. And this Samaj survived for a much longer time because of the fact that they never became too radical. So they got the idea from Brahmoism, they got the idea from Brahmo Samaj, but the people associated with it, which is Atmaram Pandurang, who's the founder. His brother was the one who got influence, but Atmaram Pandurang is the one who founded the organization. But because of the towering personalities such as M.G. Ranade entering a justice, he's a justice at this point of time, and he's extremely important in keeping the Prarthana Samaj in control. So if you look at the Prarthana Samaj, founded technically by two brothers, the Doba Tardhankar and Atmaram Pandurang. However, mostly books will talk about Pandurang. And later, Kesab Chandra Sen will get associated. He will talk about Prarthana Samaj. It was a parallel to the Brahmo Samaj, and its location was called Maharashtra sector. So it was technically on the western coast. The beauty of this organization, or unfortunately the aspect, is radical and conservative. Means radical means wants too much change, dismantling of society. Conservatives don't want too much change. So later it was guided by, for example, Ramakrishna Gopal Bhandarkar, R.G. Bhandarkar, then Narayan Chandavarkar and Justice M.G. Ranade. Ranade made it very, very popular. And the main reformers were intellectuals who advocated for social reform in the Hindus. However, never became too radical. Never became too radical. Now, when you talk about their ideology looks the same. Monoism, one God, socio-cultural reforms change it. Now, they were very clear that the Vedas are not divine. Who said that Vedas were divine or infallible? Who said this? Very good. Perfect. Great. Unlike Debendranath Tagore, Debendranath Tagore was the one who made Vedas very, very divine. They said no. He said they rather concentrated on the Bhakti saints out of Maharashtra, which is Namdev and Tukaram. They talked about syncretism of all religions, that all religions are related to each other. But they wanted to maintain a distinction with the Brahmos of Bengal, which is, Ranade pointed out that it did not break with the past and seize all connections with our society. So therefore, modernization should happen within traditional space. Simple point is, we want change, but we don't want to become like the Rosians or Young Bengal. We want to be within the fold itself. And this is why Prarthana Samaj will survive for a much longer time than any other organization, because they were doing it within the fold of Hinduism itself. Not too complicated, keep it very, very simple. So this is the strength of Prarthana Samaj. Though it comes out of Brahmo Samaj, it technically becomes a conservative organization within itself. Contribution would be again position of women, depressed classes. R.G. Bhandarkar will perform a widow remarriage, condemn the caste system, abolition of child and infanticide, education. Is this something new? Again, standard. So basically, the answer remains the same. It's just that the actors change. Before we go to Swami Vivekanand, just to consolidate, I'll put it on the same slide so that there's no issue. Now what we've done is Prarthana Samaj, Atmaram Pandurang, M.G. Ranade, and we have R.G. Bhandarkar and Brahmoism with conservatism. I think this would be enough to summarize. The Doba, you will find the Doba, but basically Pandurang is mostly what you find in the examination. So is this difficult? If I go around like this, is it too much to manage? Is it difficult? That is the point. Rayats are peasants. So it's easy. It's just about systematization. Students, what they do, they sit with the book and they think that somehow the words will come out and they will enter into the mind. You have to condense it. This is the art of notes making. This is the art of notes making. What a lot of students do is the book and their notes are exactly the same. Then there's no point of the book itself. Book is 100 pages, notes is 90 pages. Makes no sense. I need to reduce it. And that is what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to make it the least as possible. The least as possible. Okay. Now we move to a very important personality, which is Ramakrishna Mission and Swami Vivekananda. Can I discuss about Swami Vivekananda and Ramakrishna Mission? Britishers didn't care. They were like, let them play, let them do what they want to do. They're changing their own society. So they were busy counting the notes. They didn't care. Now, when we talk about Ramakrishna Mission and Swami Vivekananda, basically, first you need to understand all is before 1857, though they are going after also, but their origins are mostly in 1820s, 30s, 40s period. Now you have a person called Ramakrishna Paramhansa. See, Swami Vivekananda, he lost his father at a very young age. And therefore, he looked up to Ramakrishna Paramhans quite a lot. And he became his inspiration for what he became later. So, but Ramakrishna Paramhans actually had a very important ideology. And his ideology is that if there are people dying of hunger, if there are people in distress, if people are poor, if people are suffering, and you are capable to change that, then you should be ashamed of yourself. Dhikar, that there are so many people with so much money. However, people do not help others. So he said that rather than going to the temple and doing service to God, do service to God via helping the poor. And you would have seen this for sure in India, that people would be dying outside a temple for food, but we would be giving the food to the pandits. And this is basically the problem. He said, and he critiqued the temple and the Brahmanical organization by saying that there is no point of this type of devotion. That if you are alive and you're capable, service to the people is service to God, not the other way around. So he technically talked about doing karma. Karma is important. Act. We all think that we will do something for others, but we need to act. And this action thing is something which Vivekananda very quickly picks up. And the Ramakrishna Mission till today from Belur Math organizes these things. But when we talk about Ramakrishna Paramhans, he believed that religious salvation is through renunciation, is through bhakti, is about giving up. But when you give up, you need to understand that basically all gods are the same. So he's talking about non-communalistic understanding, that Hindus, Muslims, no one is different. Unfortunately, Swami Vivekananda represented all gods being together, universal brotherhood. And the relevance of Swami Vivekananda till today is about tolerance, but we have totally forgot it. For some reason. And he emphasized that many roads to gods are there, but that service to man was service to God, and for man was the embodiment of God. Every person has God inside them. Do service to that person. As long as millions live in hunger and ignorance, I hold every man as a traitor who have been educated at their expense, pays not a least heed to them. He said, each of us are traitors. Each of us are forgetting our karma, which is to help the people in need. And this ideology is revolutionary, And Swami Vivekananda will get extremely influenced by this, and he will do what he will do because of the core ideology of Ramakrishna Paramhans. You understand the concept of service to God to service to nation, or service to people? Basically, it's a very relevant ideology. Please understand this. Service to people is service to God. And now it is in this context that Swami Vivekananda, born as Narendranath, will be born in 1863. His father was a very successful lawyer, but he died. And thereafter, he will graduate from a mission school, very well educated also. He will also become for a very small time, a member of the Sadharan Brahmo Samaj, but then he will be drawn to Ramakrishna Mission, Ramakrishna Paramhans. After the death of Ramakrishna in 1886, he will travel along and take a very important name, Swami Vivekanand, when the Raja of Khetri will meet him. He will go to, and these are two very important milestones. He will go in 1893 to the World Conference of Religion. And in USA, he will say a very important line. All my brothers and sisters. He will show what is called universal brotherhood. And this is something which was not known or was not talked about in the West at this point of time. That is why Vivekananda still remains very relevant in America, in the West, in that sense. He will spend 4 years till 1897 there. Once he will come back, he will establish Ramakrishna Mission, which we will talk about. Now, what is the ideology of Swami Vivekananda? He believes that karma is more important than thinking. That basically actions matter. Actions matter. And it is the action towards people which matter. He also argued that all religions are the same. The names are different, the paths are different, but all are the same. And he said that religious conversion is of no use. Because if you're converting a person from one religion to other, all are the same religions only. But the most important thing which Swami Vivekananda said and still resonates with us is that the only way India goes forward, the only hope for our motherland, which is India, is when both Hinduistic and Hindus and Muslims come together. Only when the two great systems of Hinduism and Islam realize that there is no division between them, it is only then that we can go forward as a nation. This is something which still is true. But somehow people will emphasize a lot of things about Swami Vivekananda, but they will not talk about this thing, which is religious tolerance, the condemnation of caste system, the emphasis. Swami Vivekananda, people emphasize on rituals and ceremonies and superstition. However, people don't talk about the fact that Swami Vivekananda was the first anti-communalist. He was the first to believe that in India, the only way our mother can be saved is when these two religions come together. However, the British did find an antidote for that, divide and rule. And unfortunately, the fact that they were there for 250 years is based on the fact that we were ready to be divided at any point or any given time at that point of time. And this is the sad part of the story, that though we have such thinkers who are talking about people coming together, still we fell into the same trap and still falling into the same trap. Still falling. The most unfortunate part is that in 2013, in this 21st century, we still don't remember what Swami Vivekananda or Ramakrishna Paramhans are talking about. and we're still ready to be divided, literally ready to be divided. And we have WhatsApp University to do that. But the basic point of the matter is, if there is something which is to be taken away from this, is the relevance of his understanding. And I hope that you can understand that in the larger context, right? Be it politics, be it whatever, it is you and me who needs to change. That is the basic point. If every Indian gets conscious of Vivekananda's understanding, who are the politicians? What can they do? Right? He's talking about liberty, equality, free thinking, Vedantic philosophy, which is his ideology is called Neo-Vedanta. New Upanishadic thought. New Upanishadic thought. Best form of worship, service to people. He also was the one who created a link between Hinduism and nationalism, first nationalist in that sense. He believed that only when you have Paramatha, and you don't have to learn this, spirituality in day-to-day life, then only you can survive. Now, the way Vivekananda's ideology goes today forward is actually called the Ramakrishna Mission. Ramakrishna Mission will be established when he will come back from the Americas, and he will establish in Belur Mutt an organization which still exists, which is called Ramakrishna Mission. He was the first president, and Swami Brahmananda was the head of the monastery. And the core ideologies still remain the same, which is God is the realization of God is ultimate goal of life. However, Atma is man true self, what is the true ideology or the true life energy which we have. But we need to remove ignorance. Yoga should be practiced. Harmony within religion. Please, if you will write an essay, paper, and there's a topic related to religious tolerance, please do talk about Swami Vivekananda. That's an urge from my side to you. Please do that, because that will help you make your answer better. And unfortunately, this part of Swami Vivekananda is not talked about. So please remember, he talked always of harmony within religions. And as I said, service to man is service to God, and service to poor and downtrodden is very, very important. Now, simple point, his ideology is called Neo-Vedantic philosophy because he reinterpreted the Upanishads. There's a lot of debate if Swami Vivekananda is a revivalist or a reformist, but basically he sits in between the two. He's both a revivalist and a reformist because he does not say that abandon Western education. He does not say that we don't talk about oneness of religion, but he also talked about Hindu rituals which were important, yogic practices which were important. So he took best of both worlds, but he truly is a reformist because he talks us to go or talks the concept of universal brotherhood, which is not there in a revivalist agenda. The fact is, tolerance in religion is Swami Vivekananda's core ideology. Ideology which we forget today, and we have never ever actually followed in that sense. So what you do for the examination, what do? You write Ramakrishna Mission, Ramakrishna Param Hans, and Swami Vivekananda. And what do you write? Basically, Neo-Vedanta, you write universal brotherhood, then you write nationalism, unity between religions, and service to God is via people. Yes? Can you just note these points down, basic points? So perfect. We don't have to do a thesis on anything. We just have to keep it simple. I'm again, as I said, just giving you pointers, a guiding light, how to basically navigate this area. Now smaller organizations, and then we take a break. Once the reformists are over, we take a break. You have Deva Samaj, which is Shiv Narayan Agnihotri. He was an active member of the Brahmo Samaj till 1875. Formed his own society called Deva Samaj. But the aspect of Deva Samaj is very, very interesting. Very, very interesting. Whatever I'm writing is what you write in the PPT, in the box. When we talk about Deva Samaj, they started as believing in God. But the irony of Agnihotri is that by the time he comes to the end, he became an atheist, which is he stopped believing in God only. He started to talk about soul, the concept of morality, ethics. But he said that Vedanta means Upanishads. Vedo ka ant Upanishads. Last chapter of or Neo. Neo means new. Neo. So this society starts as theistic, which is believing in God. But by the end of it, it started to deny existence of God itself and talked about ethical conduct, eternity of soul, need for good action. It's an organization which loses its sight itself. So we will talk about Deva Samaj, Shiv Narayan Agnihotri, and thereafter atheists, ethical conduct. Difficult? Not difficult. Simple one line. He became an atheist because the more he studied religion, he thought that God doesn't exist. That is the irony of the story. So the two organizations we've discussed, Deva Samaj, Ramakrishna Mission. Now, called for social behavior, avoiding intoxication, non-vegetarian food should be taken away, observing non-violence, and he will then publish a book called Deva Shastra. So you can add it here. Deva Shastra. See, I'll tell you how they will come in the examination. I'll do a basic process with you. Can we do something? Because I need to bring you out of your slumber. Can I do it? Because I can see it on your face. We can? Right. Okay. So very simply, A, B, C, D, 1, 2, 3, 4. Right. I write Samaj. Now, you have please, can you match this for me? A2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Give me the code. Logeshwaran, just refresh. Now, are you getting the point of this discussion? This is how the question will come. I can give you one more type of question. If this is making sense, I'll give you one more type of question. Yes? Okay. This is okay with everyone? You're comfortable with this type of question, right? Very good. Now you do this one more time. in the time I will actually push a poll to you, you will already answer me. So what's the point? Okay, now. Here I'll push a poll to you. Okay. No, it is Bethune School Raja Ram Mohan Roy, which is correctly matched. 1 pair, 2 pair, 3 pair, none. 1 pair and 2 pair. Okay. Answer is none. Deva Samaj is Agnihotri, wrongly matched. Young Bengal movement is Henry Rosio, wrongly matched. Bethune School is Ishwar Chandra, Vidyasagar. So then why are you answering 1 and 2? This is the second type of question which comes. Getting my point? Are you now able to understand the purpose? Did they ask you the Jeevani or the life story of any of them? No. Vidyasagar was secretary. So now you are overthinking beyond exception. I don't care. Was any of them, was Raja Ram Mohan Roy linked to Bethune? No. So the answer is 0. Right? They ask you these type of questions only. Can I move to Indian Social Conference? Standard things. Now very small organizations. Pair means this is 1 pair. 1 pair, 2 pair, 3 pair. Pair. Organization founder, organization founder, organization founder. We'll take a break once we finish. Last 2-3 people. We have Belamji Malabari and thereafter Pandita Ramabai. Okay. Indian Social Conference will be organized by M.G. Ranade and Raghunath Rao. Please, this is not the same Raghunath Rao which was there in Marathas. There can be 2-3 people with the same name, not an issue. Met annually between 1887 and 1895. They were part of the Indian National Congress, something we will discuss when we'll talk about the INC in 1885, moderates. And they again advocated intercaste marriage, polygamy, same thing, standard. So that is not an issue. Indian Social Conference, add to this list. Indian Social Conference, which is M.G. Ranade, and we have what the person is, Raghunath Rao. How can we remember his name? Or forget his name? Raghunath Rao. Polygamy, anti-polygamy, widow remarriage. This more or less remains the same. Now come two other important personalities. Same M.G. Ranade, yes, same M.G. Ranade. Two important personalities. First, Bairamji Mirwanji Malabari. He was a very important personality because firstly, he will be the founder along with his friend of the Seva Sadan, which is equally important. But he was a very prolific writer. Malabari was a prolific writer, which is that he was basically the editor of all major newspapers at this point of time. And he gave space to the reformists to write in his newspapers. So he's a poet, he's a publicist, he's an author, social reformer. He was the first one to write proper volumes of poem in Gujarati language. It should be 18, not 19. 1875. Advocated protection of right of women, child remarriage or child marriage itself. He argued that the Hindu priests were misinterpreting the Upanishads and Vedas. He will be the first one to talk about or publish notes called infant marriage and enforced widowhood. How we are making our children marry and we enforce widowhood on women itself. He will be the one who will be associated with the age of consent bill, which will come later. We'll discuss it with the concept of what is the age of consent within a marriage for what we call as sexual intercourse. Then he was also the acquired and basically editor of Indian Spectator. But what we know him for actually is Seva Sadan. For Seva Sadan, which is his friend Diwan Dayaram Gidumal, will help him organize an organization called Seva Sadan, and it will work and still works till today for the women for widow women who were exploited or discarded by society, women who were either discarded by the family because of dowry issues. So they help women who are in distress. So Seva Sadan, Behram Ji Mala Pari, and he is a very prolific poet and writer. Widow remarriage, age of consent. Now comes Gopal Hari Deshmukh Lokhitwadi, as he was called. So basically he used a very important pen name, Lokhitwadi. He is also a very important writer who writes in Marathi and in the Maharashtra sector itself. Born as a Chitpavan Brahmin himself, and he studied in the Pune English medium school, very, very prestigious school. He attacked again Hindu orthodoxy. He advocated reorganization of society according to rational principles. And if religion does not sanction social reform, change religion. Does this make him a reformist or a revivalist? Reformist, revivalist. Makes him a reformist, which is to reform religion. So we had one more person. He started a weekly called Hitechu. Thereafter, periodicals Gyan Prakash, Hindu Prakash, Lokhitwadi. Hundreds of letters were published for social reform. And basically, he and Malabari are two people who push this reformist agenda in literature, so that people could understand and people could realize what is happening, which is equally important. Then the last and the most important, the only women reformer in her story, which is Pandita Ramabai Saraswati, comes from a very, very learned family, lost her parents, but she was the one who actually remembered the Vedic, what we call as verses itself, and she used to recite Vedic verses. That is why she was given the title of Saraswati. So Chitpavan Brahmin, orphaned at an early age, now started to recite Sanskrit scriptures, Vedas, Upanishads. You ask her something, she will start to recite the hymns itself, the shlokas. This will also be very, very tragic for her, that she will be widowed within 2 years of her marriage and will manage herself as an independent woman. A social reformer known for women's emancipation. These are the same points itself. She will receive her two titles, Saraswati and Pandita, in 1878 at the Calcutta University. And she will be founder of Arya Mahila Samaj or Arya Women's Samaj, which will help again education, stop child marriage. And she will also get associated with Seva Sadan, which will now also have Ramabai Ranade, which is the wife of M.G. Ranade, will get associated with Malabari's organization, Seva Sadan. And thereafter, both will be together, the Arya Mahila Samaj and the Seva Sadan itself. We will talk about Jyotiba Phule. We'll discuss with him in him under depressed classes. He comes under depressed class movement. Now, last, Servants of India Society, 1905, Gopal Krishna Gokhale, the political guru of Gandhi itself. He talked about not reform, but service to the nation. So it's like the NCC. You have selfless workers who devote their life to the cause of the country, and they organize a lot of things. For example, hostels, schools, ashrams, promoted education, stopped untouchability, alcoholism, a very Important organization, but stayed away from the Indian National Congress, which we will discuss again. We are now moving into 20th century. So that is the basic problem, that these are now getting interlinked with the INC also. Social Service League, again basic, Narayan Malhar Joshi, follower of Gokhale in Bombay, and he is again the same person who talks about service. Now they are social service organizations, not reformists, but social service organizations. So organize excursion for slum dwellers, gymnasiums, trade union congress will be founded by him later, M.N. Joshi. But there is now a shift away from the socialist agenda, what is the reformist agenda, to service agenda. Jyotiba Phule, as I said, we will do in depressed classes. So now basically we have reached revivalists. So we've covered. Now listen to me. These organizations are more or less useless. Just learn the names. M.N. Joshi, Social Service, and Servant India Society, Gopal Krishna Gokhale. That is it. That is it. Don't have to do anything. I'm discussing it with you. See, listen to me. Listen to me. In the reformists, please listen to me. In the reformists, Brahmo Samaj, Prarthana Samaj, the Ramakrishna Mission are the three most important organizations. Other are fillers. So social service, servants to India. So then you have three important personalities, or four important personalities. First is Pandita Ramabai. Then you have the person who is Ishwar, Chandra, Vidyasagar. Then you have Lokhitwadi, and last but not the least, Malabari. These people will become, these personalities will become important. Other than that, M.N. Joshi we have discussed, and the person is Gopal Krishna Gokhale. I will discuss about them more later when we'll talk about Gokhale. We will discuss them about when we'll talk about nationalism. These are much more important nationalistic figures. Other than this, Agnihotri and the Deva Samaj. And you have Vivian Derozio, who is Young Bengal. Can't you just remember these organizations? Gopal Hari Deshmukh, that is Lokhitwadi. Are you getting my point? This is not difficult. It's a limited list of people. Concentrate on what is written on the screen. You make it Seva Sadan Malabari. Technically, Malabari. So Malabari Seva Sadan. You are complicating it in your mind. For me, this is the only thing I need to concentrate on. So, simple point is, it seems overwhelming, but it isn't. Systematically put them on one page and your work will be done. Are you getting my point? It's not about going fast or slow. Everything is written in the PPT. I have to explain something to you. I'm explaining that. I'm obviously not going to waste your time in giving you unnecessary information. That has never been my style. I don't believe that I need to bombard you with facts. You can remember what is written on the screen. Now listen to me. Now listen to me. If a question comes out of all these areas, there will be for sure a prelims option which will be from this area. Now if they will find a random organization from a random period with a random personality, then you can't do anything. Because the basic point of the matter is that then there is already too much to learn. So very simply, we will do the most important organizations. We will consolidate that. That will help us in elimination. But we will not go and do random organizations. You will see in books, some Samaj, random Samajes would be written. So the fine details are not important. The general things I am explaining to you, and the names are what you need to remember. Can we agree to this? I already told you this area is like this only. Can we agree to this? Okay. So when we come back, we will talk about revivalists, that too specifically Swami Dayanand Saraswati and Arya Samaj, and then we will go into other organizations, Jyotiba Phule, and then we'll move into Muslim Reform, Aligarh movement, Wahhabi, Deoband, and then we'll go into Nirankari, Sikh, Parsi. So that is the basic point. I already told you there is only facts in this area. I'm telling you how to learn them. There's nothing to explain here. So you need to understand one thing. You already knew this is going to happen. So don't act surprised. That why is that there is so much information? It is going to happen. You go to any book, anything. I am trying to give you the basic understanding, and that should be enough to do anything. Done? Okay. So it is what, 6:37. We come back at 6:50. I give you 3 minutes more because you've been patient. So for your promise, you get 3 minutes more. Revivalism, when I come back, I will discuss. Right? Please, you have to tell me, is it making sense? Please. You can't sit there like, what is happening? Can't do that. Okay. Right. See you. 10 minutes, drink something. I know the machine is becoming a little bit heated, but cool it down. Okay. Yes. Issues. There were no inherent issues in the larger context of what we call as Hinduism. It is over a period of time, there is corruption which came in, and we need to go back to the original. That is why the organization we are going to discuss first, called Arya Samaj, the most important line which Swami Dayanand Saraswati, the founder of Arya Samaj, talked about is go back to Vedas, which is he believed that whatever we have done, whatever we have reached via the first genesis of the Vedic Brahmanistic practices or Vedic or Hinduism in the later Vedic period, over a period of time it has got corrupted. We need to go back. So go back to Vedas. So Arya Samaj basically is the only major revivalistic organization we need to discuss. The founder being Swami Dayanand Saraswati. And Dayanand Saraswati is linked to a very interesting history, which is that he was at home. He was a very, very good family he comes from, but he then ran away. And the word Swami Dayanand Saraswati comes from the what we call as the fakirs or the dandis. He actually started. You would have known, if you've seen the Kumbh Mela coverage, you would know that there are different types of what are called monks or priests. Dandis, you have fakirs, you have different type of personalities and different type of groups which do ascetics or do ascetic practices, renunciation. So he joins the what is called the Saraswati Dandis, and therein comes the Dayanand Saraswati, and he starts to get influenced by both Western education and the concept of Vedas, and he believes that basically the Hinduistic practices had got fully muddled up and corrupted, and we need to purify and revive the original form of Hinduism. Good, Pritam. So, born in Tankara, princely state of Morvi, fled from the home, then became a part of the wandering Saraswati Dandis, and they named him Dayanand, and therefore later he became the chief disciple of a person called Swami Vajranand, and thereafter produced an ideology. Simple point is, Swami Dayanand Saraswati says Hinduism has got corrupted. It was never like this in that sense. Are you getting my point? How he is a revivalist? He's saying purify and revive. Purify and go back. We need to go back to the Vedas, not go forward with the Vedas, but go back to the Vedas, the original form of Hinduism. Now, if you look at his ideology though looks like a reformist, which is that basically he rejected the Puranas, polytheism, adultery, role of Brahmin priests, and rituals. Is this something common with the reformists? Yes or no? Yes. Yes. This is basically the same as a reformist. He believed that no Maya, no Moksha, no Niyati. What is Maya, Moksha, Niyati? Maya means the illusion of life, which is what we call as money and these things, which is Maya. Then Moksha. Moksha is getting salvation or getting the form of removing yourself from the cycle of birth and rebirth. And then last is Niyati. Niyati means fate, that you all are destined to do something. So he said all of this makes no sense. We reject all of these practices. Then he favored Western sciences. And this is why Maya means illusion. Everything in the world is Maya. So he favored Western sciences means that this is his reformist revivalist concept, that he said that Westernization is problem. The British are a problem, but Western sciences are good. So first to use the word Swaraj. Swaraj means self-rule. Self-rule. I'll write it in a different color. Self-rule. And he basically uses this term very well, which is that we need to rule ourselves. We need to be free to rule ourselves. In 1874, he will then establish his own branch of the Arya Samaj, which is going to be later called the Bombay Arya Samaj or Noble Society. Noble Society. The word itself, Arya Samaj. And Arya Samaj is again, straight away it rejects caste system. It rejects rituals, rejects priesthood. It rejects all the same features as a basic reformist, So, opposed to caste system, attacked untouchability, caste and orthodoxy, encouraged intercaste marriages, widow remarriage. He will then introduce his concept or his very important ideology, and that ideology will in turn be called Satyarth Prakash. This is very important for you. Satyarth Prakash is going to be his understanding of what basically is the truth. The truth is blinding. Satyarth Prakash, the reflection or the power of truth. He will also be the one who will say that we need to increase the age of marriage of women or men to rather 25 and women to 16. It was 12 at that point of time. Now, if I only showed you this slide, does his features look like a reformist or a revivalist? This is why I told you that both are reaching the same point. Both are reaching the same point. Both have the paths which are exactly going the same place. However, their paths were different. This is the basic point I was trying to tell you that day. That if sometimes reformist and revivalist look exactly the same. It's just that their basic ideology changes. Now, please have to understand something which is DAV and the concept of Shuddhi and the concept of Shuddhi movement. Can I discuss this with you now? Okay. Great. Great. Now, right. Here, only one. Only one. So what is the need for the box? Only one. Okay. Now, what did the Arya Samaj is linked to? How to learn? How to learn? Now, how to learn? Two things. Swami Dayanand Saraswati, first. Second, the concept of Satyartha Prakash. Third, the concept of going back to Vedas. You will see go back to Vedas as the only word which you will see in the examination. There is not a lot to be learnt here. I need to do something important rather, which is some of you may be out of the same schools, which is the concept of Dayanand Anglo-Vedic schools. Can I discuss that? Yes, great. So, till Swami Dayanand Saraswati was alive, the Bombay branch was considered important. However, thereafter, two major branches emerged in Arya Samaj. One is called the Punjab Arya Samaj, and the other one is basically called the Haridwar branch. And these two will go in two different directions. Basically, from the Punjab Arya Samaj, there will rise a personality called Lala Hansraj. And if you are from the Hansraj College, you would know that the Hansraj College is actually named after him, Lala Hansraj. Delhi University, Lala Hansraj. Lala Hansraj believed that the Arya Samaj needs to get better organization, and it needs to spread the message of both the importance of the Vedas and Western education, which is that spiritual and moral teaching and teaching and values need to be mixed up with Western education. And therefore, he will establish what is called the DAV, Dayanand Anglo-Vedic Trust. It will be established by Lala Hansraj, and the DAV, Dayanand Anglo-Vedic Trust, is therefore now going to produce what are called DAV schools. DAV schools till today are one of the most sought after schools in India. Very hard to get into, and very, very rigorous curriculum, which is both Western education and everything, but equally more important on spiritual and moral development. So the DAV schools, till today are a very important contribution of the Arya Samaj, and they take the concept of Anglo-Vedism, which is English education and Vedic learning together. And therefore, this is a very important legacy of the Arya Samaj and Dayanand Saraswati. So, the Lahore branch, the Punjab branch of the Arya Samaj itself will now get more and more institutionalized. And in 1885, Lala Hansraj will be the principal of a school for which he will not take any pay. And this school will later transform into, in 1886, Dayanand Anglo-Vedic Trust and Management Society, and thereafter they will now create a whole chain of DAV schools. At one point of time during this period, close to 3,000 to 4,000 students were associated with it. And the basic point is, within a month, 550 students had joined them. It will get affiliated with the Punjab University. And the whole point is, the most important point is, the curriculum was made by the teachers of the DAV, but everything was funded by Indians. By Indians. No governmental money was taken, the British government money was taken, neither a faculty was an Englishman. All the staff was Indian. So this is an expression of nationalism in a way. The DAV schools run only on Indians, no Englishmen, because in any college or society or any what we call as organization at this point of time, be it any school, there would be an Englishman somewhere. But DAV did not allow that to happen. So Dayanand Saraswati, Swami Dayanand Saraswati, Arya Samaj, Satyarth Prakash, DAV, Lala Hansraj. Is this point, is this side of the story problematic, or any issue with regards to this side of the story? Still relevant, very important. Now, how did it happen? They just found, and their own students became the teachers. Now comes the problematic history. The schools were, the government allowed it because they existed independently with private money. The British don't go so micromanaging that they will destroy the school. Okay, they are under the British rule. The Punjab University is technically run by a Britisher, but they were never having staff as Britishers. Now comes the problematic history of what we call as Dayanand, the Arya Samaj. And basically, the problematic history, we'll talk about Satyashodhak Samaj, don't worry. The problematic history of the Arya Samaj is rather linked to Swami Shraddhanand, which is that he had a Gurukul in Haridwar, which was run by the Arya Samaj. And because of the missionary activity which was happening in India, he will read the first census of India. First census of India, which was published in 1901. Rather, proper official census. First census is though 1881. Proper official census is 1901. And he will see that there was a rising population of Christians and a falling Hindu population, though very minor, very, very minor. He will now make it his mission to conduct what are called Shuddhi Sabhas. To conduct what are called Shuddhi Sabhas. DAV schools are the legacy of Swami Vivekananda, Swami Dayanand Saraswati. That is it. Important schools, very good quality schools. Now this is the problem. Swami Shraddhanand will now create a lot of tension, communalistic tension, which is community-based tension, because he will talk to the different communities by saying that you can be reconverted back to Hinduism. You can be reconverted back to Hinduism if you've left the fold, for example, went into the concept of Christianity, or you became Sikh. So basically, he started to say that the Sikhs, the Muslims, and the Christians, all three, can now reconvert back to Hinduism. And this will now start to create a little bit of problematic concept, which is the Arya Samaj legacy, though is actually DAV. Arya Samaj is also remembered for this. Arya Samaj is also remembered for this, and this will be the starting point of a little bit of tension in the Punjab sector with regards to religion. So the larger concept here is very simple, is very, very simple, which is that you have to remember Dayanand Saraswati, Swami Dayanand Saraswati, then the Arya Samaj, Satyarth Prakash, thereafter the concept of Lala Hansraj, DAV, and Swami Shraddhananda. Shuddhi movement. Can you just remember this out of this whole conversation? Yes? Perfect then. No issues. Now comes an organization which is linked to the Shuddhi movement. Founder Bhai Parmanand, Jat Paat Todak Mal. Basically, this was the organization of all who had been reconverted. So, members of the Shuddhi conversion brought via Shuddhi conversion, though condemning caste distinctions, were integrated back into the Arya Samaj via this Todak Mal. So, basically, if somebody went with the Shuddhi movement, he would be reconverted and then become part of the Jat Path Todak Mandal, and that Jat Path Todak Mandal will then put them into Arya Samaj as a form of rehabilitation. So it's basically an extension of the Arya Samaj, the what is called the Haridwar branch. Now, one nemesis of Raja Ram Mohan Roy, Dharma Samaj, Radhakant Dev, he was the one who was the rival of the Brahmo Samaj. And ironically, though he's talking about English culture coming through, not working with close collaboration with the British, his most worst idea was this. So though he's favoring Western education for women, because Raja Ram Mohan Roy said right, he said left, which is Raja Ram Mohan Roy says Sati is bad, he says it's good. So the Dharma Sabha basically existed at the same point of time as Brahmo Samaj and tried to undercut the Brahmo Samaj. And that is their only contribution in the larger context. So in this story, if you want, we can write their names so that you don't have to worry. Bhai Parmanand. And we have now one more interesting personality, the Dharma Sabha, which is Radha Kant Dev. Any issue? Nothing? Because it's all names random. Now, we have finally covered reform and revival. Now we need to move to Jyotiba Phule and what is called depressed classes reform. So we have to understand Phule, we have to understand Savitribai Phule, we then have to understand the concept of Periyar Ramaswamy Iyer, which is basically Periyar as he's called in South India. Can we talk about them now? Bhai Parmanand was related to Bhai Shraddhanand. They were coming from the same Gurukul branch. Okay. Majority of them are for Bengal because Bengal was the most impacted with regards to education. Now, when we talk about depressed class movement, now comes the most towering figure, which is Jyotiba Phule. Now, when we talk about Jyotiba Phule, Satyarth Prakash, as I said, Shivam, basically is his understanding of truth seeking and the Arya Samaj major ideology, which is the concept of destruction of caste system. Okay. Now, Jyotiba Phule, his experience is what made him what he was. Coming from, see, the word depressed class is used for basically lower varna and lower castes. But it is Phule who gave them a very important term. Jyotiba Phule, Mahatma Jyotiba Phule, was the one who gave the word Dalit, which is the one who has been excluded out of Hindu society or is broken. So the word Dalit, which is basically a word for depressed classes, was a word which Jyotiba Phule gave. The way Jyotiba Phule became what he was, that because he was technically a student or a product of missionary schools. When he came out of the mission, he did not believe in caste and varna. That is what missionary schools used to teach about. But when he went to his friend's wedding, he was discriminated against and thrown out of the wedding, upper caste friend's wedding. And that day he now chose or took an oath that he will destroy the caste system and he will destroy and critique the priesthood and the Brahmanical order. And basically, we'll discuss Dr. Ambedkar separately. When we've done the whole story, we'll discuss Dr. Ambedkar when we discuss Gandhi. Now, Jyotiba Phule, therefore, now started to read Thomas Paine. He's a very interesting American writer who talked about slavery and how slavery is demeaning and wrong. And he will become the most important personality with regards to depressed class movement. Depressed class, he will allow them to get education, he will fund their education, widow remarriage, girls education, depressed class education, all he will believe, and he still believed, and this is something which Dr. Ambedkar also believed, is that education is the way to go forward. Education is the way to go forward. Once they get education, they pointed out that all bureaucracy at this point of time, ICS, whatever it may be, what clerical jobs they have are all Brahmins. So he said that there is a need to change the nature of bureaucracy also, so that the depressed classes could enter and thereafter their interest was embodied in that sense. He was also the same personality who started a very important organization which is called the Prarthana Samaj, the Society of Truth Seekers. And therefore, this organization is going to become a very important organization for helping these different personalities and different parts of the society to get integrated into society. So he was a pioneer in Western India. 1827, born into a depressed caste of Pune. He will get his schooling from the Scottish Mission School in 1847. He will be married to a very young Savitribai Phule, who will educate, and she will become a pioneer in herself when it comes to women's education, depressed class education. She will be the ray of hope for untouchable girls and untouchability and the educated. As basically, she will provide education to depressed classes and depressed class girls to bring them out of their problematic existence. Once he'll be thrown out, he will start to read Thomas Paine, The Right of Man and Slavery, and the idea of equality will come through. He will talk about how all religious books, the priests all talk about inequality, and he will now start to argue that it is Brahmanical domination over society, which was the problem. Therefore, he will now attack what is called the orthodox nature of religion, caste hierarchy, exploitation of masses, and the hypocrisy which is prevalent in religion. And he will push unity, equality, easy religious practices as the new answer. He will start a school in 1851 for girls in Pune, and then a pregnant home for widows of dominant caste, basically widows who are expecting or who had been discarded by their own family. So he is also helping the dominant caste women. So women reform is something which is Brahmin and priesthood basically together. What is hypocrisy? Hypocrisy basically is, I give you a lecture, 45-minute lecture on not eating ice cream. And then as soon as the lecture is over, eat ice cream. Then I'm a hypocrite. I just say what I do, I don't repreach it. So he taught reading and writing to his wife. Upliftment of widows and education of women is something very, very important to her. Advocated widow remarriage, used the word Dalit for the first time, and opposed that all castes and all varnas are just superficial divisions of society, and his house was open for everyone. He was the first one to also talk about primary education as a way of upliftment of lower caste, that once they get educated, it is then only that they go actually up. Satyashodhak Samaj will be produced by him, an organization, the Society of the Three Seekers of Truth, talk about the oppression and exploitation. He will voice his opinion via Deen Bandhu and condemn the caste hierarchies in that sense. So when we talk about Phule, the following things need to be remembered. Satya Shodhak Samaj, women's education, Dalit word, equality and education for lower castes, and Savitri Bhai Phule and caste distinctions need to be dismantled. Can we agree to this much? Everyone? Perfect. Now, 2-3 very important. Deen Bandhu, if you want to write it, why not? Sure. Deen Bandhu. Deen. Now, one very important personality from Kerala, which is Sri Narayan Guru. He will be the part of a larger movement which is called temple entry. Previously, I used to teach temple entry here, but I've now shifted it to CDM because it was something which was actually an integral part of the civil disobedience movement. So we'll understand Periyar, we'll understand Sri Narayan Guru, we'll understand his movement, but the Justice Party, the temple entry movement, I will discuss separately when I will talk about CDM because it used to make no sense here generally. So, though in the PPT you will find it here only, I will do it when I'll do CDM in that sense. Now, Sri Narayan Guru, he is from a very specific community born into the, and mind my pronunciation, Izhava family in Kerala, and it's a depressed class or a depressed varna or a caste which is not given access to one very important institution which is called temples. Basically, very simply, in South India, the temples are a problem, which is that based on the notions of purity, the lower caste and lower varnas were not allowed to enter into the temples. And therefore, Sri Narayan Guru Swami actually was a social reformer who fought for the right to access to God. That is, everybody has the right to access to God, and there's no point in dividing us on the lines of caste. So he will be very, very instrumental in his own caste, and he will talk about freedom, spiritual freedom, equality, but also reject what we call as casteism. But his major contribution is that he will introduce a new organization called Sri Narayan Dharma Pratipalan Yogam, or the SNDP organization. And he will talk about equality, upliftment, the concept of Chaturvarna, the four-fold Varna structure as artificial. But the most important movement he started is called the Arapipuram movement, in which he will technically install a shivling in a temple in Kerala in order to show that God's image is not a monopoly of the Brahmins. And on the temple walls, this temple still exists. He wrote, devoid of dividing walls of caste and race, hatred and faith, we all live in brotherhood. And basically these important organizations will therefore, and Sri Narayan Guru and one more personality we'll discuss, Periyar, will now give push to what is called temple entry movement, which I will discuss when we'll talk about CDM. 1930s, it starts to become important. So in the larger story, the Aravi Puram movement, Sri Narayan Guru, the concept of the SNDP, these three things come together in our larger story. They come together in the larger story. But the most important personality who changed the discourse in South India, and he was the pioneer of what is called the anti-Brahmanical movement. His name is Periyar, or what we call as E.V. Ramaswamy Naikar. Everybody is with me till this point? I said whatever is important, we'll put it in the box. Nothing here, nothing there. Okay. Right. Now, this topic is like this only. We have to just remember basic names and their ideology. Now, E.V. Ramaswamy Naikar, very fondly called as Periyar, he said that somehow this whole society is based on respect. So therefore, the depressed classes have to create respect for themselves. And that is why his movement was also called self-respect movement. Now, basically, very simply, the self-respect movement was based on the concept that everybody is subordinated by the dominant class. And if you look at the numerical number, the lower castes are more than the upper castes. So if we talk about self-respect, the caste system will automatically topple itself if we fight for our own dignity. One more important aspect related to E.V. Ramaswamy Naikar was that he also talked about gender, that women also need to come out of their own fold which has been created. He will become the base ideology on which, during the civil disobedience movement, the Justice Party and the temple entry movement in Travancore will start, which we will discuss. But he is a very important thinker with regards to the anti-Brahmanical movement. So, society was being exploited by the minority, and the minority was exploiting the majority. Untouchables should fight for their own dignity, self-respect, and rationalism, which is reason, and human rights are the two most important concepts he talked about. Therefore, his larger movement is called anti-Brahmanical movement, which is remove the dominance of Brahmins in society. Along with that, he will also talk about the right of women for property, education, personal choice. He will actually go after arranged marriages. This concept of arranged marriages, he will believe that women should have the freedom to choose who they want to marry. And if the husband has the right to leave his wife, then the wife should also have the right to divorce her husband. And he also said that why is that purity, chastity, this concept of non-freedom, why is it only applied to women? With what we discussed yesterday, rationalism is the dominance of reason. That why is that only women have to prove something and not men? So basically, Ramaswamy Naikar and Periyar, he will change the whole structure of how we see the way this depressed class movement was working. As I said, we'll discuss Dr. Ambedkar in his context, and we'll discuss temple entry movement in its context rather than doing it here. Now I'm moving into Parsi. Listen to me first. Hindu is done. Let us revise. Can we do that? Okay. We did reformist. Arya Samaj. Reformist, Brahmo Samaj, Prarthana Samaj, Derozio, and the concept of what we call as Pandita Ramabai, Agnihotri. We have Malabari. We have the concept of the larger concept of Ramakrishna Mission, Young Bengal movement. This was what we discussed there. We have then Gopal Krishna Gokhale and M.N. Joshi, standard things. Then in revivalism, we discussed only one, Swami Dayanand Saraswati, Arya Samaj, Lala Hardayal, Swami Shraddhanand, Bhai Parmanand, Jat Pat Modakmal, Dharma Sabha. Then we've discussed Periyar, Sri Narayan Guru, and Phule. Now, in the larger context, can you systematize all this data into one place? Can you do that? The trick is to just systematically divide the data, and thereafter, you just can cover it one by one. Maximum, I have given you 30 facts here. Please understand one thing. Make the table. If you want to, you can show me the table also in email. No issues at all. But the basic point of the matter is I want you to do it. The trick is condensation. See, this is an area I already told you, this and peasant and tribal. There is no escaping facts. There is no escaping facts. The way is to condense data and do it systematically. Nobody is doing a thesis in this area. We don't have to do the thesis in that sense. Just make that table. I want you to make that table because by the process of making that table, whatever I've done in this class will get consolidated. Trust me. I've given it to you in tribal because there is too much data there. But where I think you can consolidate via a process, this is the only thing and the first thing I'm asking you to do. Make a table on an A4 sheet and paste it in front of you. Learn one each day. And there is no way that you cannot learn by 2024. By the time you give the examination in 2024 or even for 2023, 90 days or 365 days. You simply have to just make a box like this. And in that box, just simply make 3 columns, which is organization, personality, and main idea. And once you've made that, you just divide it like this, name, add main idea, and you will be easily able to do it. This process is an important process of learning this theme. There is no escaping that. Rough table, formal table, 5 colors you want to use. You want to use pencil, rubber, anything you want to use, you be my guest. The way you make it is your thing. It's about making it. Done? Okay. We've discussed depressed class, social injustice reform movement is done. Depressed class reform, only Dr. Ambedkar is left in a way. Temple entry movement I will do when I'll discuss CDM. Okay. Now, I have, yes, Hemagini, every reformer which is necessary for the examination, I've shared with you. All reformers and everybody you will expect and see sprinkled around in the paper is there. Random obscure ones should only be done after you've covered this. Bare minimum is the PPT. Can you learn the PPT and the basic facts? Yes or no? Then I move to Parsi reform. Now there is Parsi, Muslim, Sikh. That's it. Yes, then there's no issue altogether. As I said, my input here is to tell you what to do with it. Nothing more, nothing less. Okay. Now we change the religion and we go into Parsis or Zoroastrians. The organization which is linked to totally different. Muslims and Parsis are totally different. Totally different religion altogether. Parsis, the organization is called the Rehnumai Mazdayan Sabha. Don't have to learn it. Just it's a peculiar name. Religious Reform Association. And the people who are associated is very, very interesting. SME, please push the basic facts related to Parsi Zoroastrianism in the comments, please. As I said, it's a totally different religion. Zoroastrianism is a Central Asian religion which came to India. It's totally different rituals, not Muslims, not Hindus. They are a separate religion altogether. So now, 1851, this organization is created. And the most towering figure who was part of this organization is Dadabhai Naoroji. He will become one of the pioneers of Indian nationalism. From Nanaji Phurundeji to Sorabji, Salpuji Bengali to K.M. Kama, Dadabhai Naoroji is the one who will take everything forward and take it to a next level altogether. This organization will be about reform, Parsi Law Association, and they will talk about two things. First, child marriage, legal status for women when it comes to property, and uniform law of inheritance and marriages. Basically, their issues are different, so their concept is different, which is inheritance, legal status for women, and this society will technically be a new type of wave within this religion. And in India, Dadabhai Naoroji played a very important role in making sure that till today, Parsi women have the right to inheritance, which came very late in Hinduism because of this organization itself. So, one basic organization, they have their own newspaper, Rasht Goftar, an Anglo-Gujarati newspaper by Naoroji and Kama, talked about social religious reform in Parsis. They did not like orthodoxy or conservatism, talked about modernization. So there's nothing here. Again, the organization name you need to remember, and Dadabhai Naoroji, and basically inheritance laws. Now, this would be easy to identify in the examination, except for Rush Goftar. Why would it be easy to identify in the paper? You tell me. Why would it be very easy to eliminate this or find this? Because it's a single organization and the name is very, very different. So it's a different type of organization. Name is also very, very different, and Dadabhai Naoroji is associated with it. So Rasht Goftar, as soon as you see Parsis. You see Parsis. Only one organization, very kind towards the Parsis because they knew that we would have to learn their organizations. So they only had one. Now comes Muslim reform. Can we discuss Muslim reform? Because every organization which exists is a burden to a UPSC aspirant. Now, let's talk about Muslim reform. You want a 5-minute break? No? Yes, no. The no's are more. Sure means like it's not on the menu. No. Okay. Even if I push a poll, it will come 50-40. I'll push a poll. You see. I'm just trying to give you a break here. So I'm doing this. A means yes. B means no. Right. I'm trying to give you a break even though I'm not giving you a break. Please. Okay. Well, the yeses have it. The A's have it. Yes have it. So, we'll take a break. Not an issue. It's 7. 13 plus 5, 18 minutes I've given you. Now, Muslim reform. See, unlike the Hinduistic community, Muslim reform was very slow, which is that their first response was to close themselves, which is that the British gave a critique critique to the concept of their religion or their aspects of Sharia. Sharia is the holy law of Islam. So the Muslims say, never mind, we don't care. Whatever critique you give, we don't care. Therefore, Muslim reform was very slow. But there are two basic strands, as we know, revivalism and reformism. And the only personality who is linked to Muslim reformism is Sir Syed Ahmad Khan and what is called the Aligarh movement, the one who established Aligarh Muslim University. And basically, Sir Syed Ahmad Khan believed that the only way the Muslims could go forward is to embrace Western education. And he talked about Western education quite a lot and pushed it also. But other than the Aligarh movement, most of the Muslim reformist movement was that we were totally perfect, the British are the problem. And this was basically, which started with the Wahhabi, will be taken forward by the Deoband and the Ahmadiyya movement. And basically that the reformism and revivalism, the scale in Hinduism is on the reformist side, heads on the revivalist side. So remember, in the examination, most of the organizations you will see is basically revivalistic. But the most interesting out of them was Wahhabis, because Wahhabis literally started to destroy the British in their newspapers. In their literature, saying that the British are the most useless of all different people. And the British actually had to introduce the sedition law against the Wahhabis and used against the Wahhabis for the first time, which is that you cannot entice hatred and violence against the state. So when we talk about the reformist agenda itself, while the Hindu community responded much quicker, the Muslim community shut itself into a shell when it came to reformism itself. It is only after the 1860s that we see that there will be a urge to change. And the first one is Sir Syed Ahmad Khan. He's a reformist, and he believed that modern scientific thought was the only way to reconcile Islam with the way it was today. He said that Quran was the authoritative text of Islam and every other text has been secondary. But he believed that basically Muslim men and women have to embrace Western education to go forward. He will also talk about Muslim women getting political and economic rights. I will discuss with you why Sir Syed Ahmad Khan had a certain type of understanding because of 1857, which I will discuss. Basically, Sir Syed Ahmad Khan was doing a major damage control for the Muslim community because of 1857. And that discussion I'm going to have with you on Friday, which is that basically how he had to convince the British that 1857 was not a Muslim conspiracy. And it wasn't basically, but he had to literally convince the British about that. In 1875, he will then form what is called the Mohammedan Anglo-Oriental College, which is now called Aligarh Muslim University or AMU, a foremost organization and university in UP. And basically, he was the one who will argue that we have to cooperate with the Britishers and reform the Muslims. He will talk about modern education, oppose parda, polygamy and easy divorce. His followers from the Aligarh movement were extremely important. For example, Urdu poet Hussein Hali, Nazir Ahmad. Don't have to remember this, but these are important personalities of Muslim, what is called Muslim poetic and literature aspects. He will also have an important magazine called Tehzeeb ul Akhlaq. But the problem with the Aligarh movement was very quickly it will fizz off as soon as Sir Syed Ahmad Khan will be gone. So Aligarh movement is a reformist movement. However, Quran is the holy text, Sharia is the law which comes out of reading that text. So basic point is the only reformist along with Iqbal, who was one of the greatest poets of modern India, though he has a troubled history with regards to how he became a little bit more closer to Jinnah. The fact of the matter is these two personalities, Sir Syed Ahmad Khan and Iqbal, will actually initially talk about change, condemn, resignation, contemplation, contentment. They will actually inspire a lot of people. But the troubled history of Muslims with regards to the national movement, communalism, I will start to develop from Monday, which is how Jinnah was also a very important part of the Indian national movement, the INC itself, and how his orientation will change, and the Muslim League, which was nothing in 1906, will become by 1936, 1946 a bigger problem, or the biggest problem to the INC. So you just have to be patient with regards to communalism. I will start to slowly but surely develop it with you, because there's a major myth with regards to the Muslim League. Muslim League between 1906, for 30-40 years, it was zero, footnote. The change will come when the British will push the Muslim League, and that is what the British do best, which we'll discuss. So, simple point, Sir Syed Ahmad Khan, Aligarh movement, Aligarh Muslim University. Can you remember these three facts? That's it. Reformist? Yes? Perfect. The now problematic ones are revivalistic. And the foremost among them is called the Waliullah or the Wahhabi movement. Basically, Wahhabi movement is not specific to India. It had its origin in the Arabic sector, in Arabia, which is Central Asia, under Abdul Wahhab, which is the word which is used. But in India, it was Shah Waliullah Dehlvi and later Sayyid Ahmad Behlvi, who became the most important proponents of it. And they were a revivalist movement because they believed that Islam needed to be purified. All forms of interpretation, all forms of change which Islam has seen is all corruption. And the purest of purest Islam, the old Islam, the new, the way it was in Arabia, in Central Asia, in Mecca, Medina, it is the way we need to go for. But the Wahhabi movement will become a major problem for the British. Because once the British will annex the Punjab sector, and once the revolt of 1857 will happen, the Wahhabis will start to target the British. And they started to say that all this corruption is not because we changed, it is the British who is the problem. And they will literally start to talk about what we call as British critique, how they need to be removed. They will literally start to create a ruckus for the British. They used to fear the Wahhabis. And the British, therefore, wanted to suppress the Wahhabi movement as quickly as possible. And that is why in 1870, they will introduce a word in the Indian Penal Code, which is called sedition, which is to excite dissatisfaction towards the government established by law in India. And the sedition law will be used very harshly on the Wahhabi movement to suppress it. Though the Devband movement will start in the background, this is why 124A, what is called IPC sedition, was introduced for them. This is a very important point for you because it can come in the examination that what is the context of the rise of the word sedition, of the term sedition. So Wahhabis, revivalists, but go after the British quite a lot. So Wahhabi, revivalists, sedition, go after British. Can you remember this point, please, for me? Wahhabi, Aligarh, Sayyid Ahmad Khan. Thereafter, reformists, education. Can we remember this much? Sedition means if you do anything against the state. And this was basically the British way of protecting itself, the British way of protecting themselves. Great. Deshdroh, very good. Achal, Deshdroh, yes, sedition, Deshdroh. Okay. Now comes an extension of the Wahhabi movement, which is called the Titu Mir movement. And Mir Nihar Ali, he was part of the Wahhabi movement. And he will talk about again Sharia and revivalism. But there's a major point here which I need to explain something to you. Rajdroh, Dreshdroh, whatever the point. The basic point is, technically Rajdroh, there's a concept that Titu Mir movement was in controversy recently, that Muslim peasants attacked British planters and Hindu landlords. Now listen to me. Listen to me very clearly. In this configuration, Muslim peasant, Hindu landlord, is this a religious conflict or it's a class conflict? It's basically a class conflict. The fact is that the coincidence of this movement is that the Hindus were landlords and the Muslims were the peasants. But basically, it's not a Hindu-Muslim thing. Rather, it's a peasant landlord thing. Now, why am I asking you this and why am I telling you this is because we need to come out of a certain idea which the British taught us. And this again, I'm introducing something to you. Please understand this. What is communalism? I'll tell you this concept. What is communalism? I use this word quite a lot. Communalism. See, conflict between any two communities is communalism. In British India, it was technically the Hindus and the Muslims. But what bad thing the British taught us, and we were very good students also, is that they somehow convinced both the communities that there's a natural antagonism between the two, or their targets are opposite to each other. So basically in India, there is a concept that the British deliberately created or engineered a hatred which was not at the scale it was before the British came. Now, for example, antagonism means conflict. Hindus and Muslims were there in India since 1206, Delhi Sultanate. Even before that, 900. Simply, it's not that these two communities never clashed, or these two communities never came together, or there was no problem between them. But it became not so severe that we said that we want two different nations. And this is one thing which I am going to do with you in the next whatever classes are left, is I'm trying to scrape off the British agenda in this story, which is that Hindus and Muslims have existed together with Sikhs, Buddhists, Jains. All religions in India have existed together for thousands of years. Not thousand, hundred of years for sure. But somehow, The British taught us that we all are incongruent. We all don't fit together. And basically, we need to create separate parts of us to have our interest come together. So in India, basically, communalism is a forced process. Conflict and syncretism both exist. Akbar also exists, Aurangzeb also exists. But not everything is Aurangzeb, not everything is Akbar. But the British somehow taught us that Akbar and Aurangzeb have to exist separately. Are you getting my point? That we as Indians somehow forget that religious tolerance is something which is inherent to Indian society, and I will prove it to you when I'll teach you ancient. Because a Brahmin ruler will make a Buddhist temple or a vihara, and a Buddhist ruler will make a Brahmin temple. These are both Mughals. Basic point of them. Yes, Akbar and Aurangzeb are both Mughals. This is the story of India which you need to revive back, because you are the future of India. I need to demystify this fog which is there in front of you, which the British somehow create, that we can't live together, which is technically not true. So I made this point to say that a class conflict is given a religious connotation because the British wanted to give it a religious connotation. Basically, it's the grander plan, what we call as divide and rule. The grander plan is divide and rule. Divide India into so many parts that we never come together against the British. Against the British. Yashovarman, I know what I'm saying. I will discuss with you the concept, what did Kutubuddin Aibak did, they did. I will discuss ancient medieval with you. Don't worry about that. The simple point of the matter is there's something called class conflict. There's something called religious conflict. Both are somehow not contiguous to each other. And he will be in turn killed by the British later because he was the one who was leading an agitation against British indigo planters. So in this story, you have heard the story of the two pigeons and the cat. Here is the cat. The two monkeys and the cat rather. So basically they make these two fight and the cat takes what they want to take. Have you heard the story? Yes. Mir Nihar Ali, this one. Yes, that in the conflict of two, the third takes it. The third is the indigo planter. The indigo planter. The conflict of two, the third takes it. This is the indigo planter. Can I move on? I hope that you can understand where I'm developing. Communalism is something which I'll keep on talking to you about. We will discuss the trivialization of or the small aspect of Muslim League and how Muslim League became what it was. Who is the worst Governor General of or the Viceroy of India? Worst of all of them. Clive Ripon is a good one, a relatively good one. Clive, Dalhousie, Curzon. I'm looking for one name. General Dyer was not a viceroy. Curzon, Minto. Everybody talks about Curzon for sure. But there's one. Mountbatten. I'm looking for a name. Yes, very good. Sajan. Very good, very good, very good. The name is Linlithgow. Not a lot of people know about him. Linlithgow. Spelling is incorrect. Linlithgow. Linlithgow is not a friend of Nehru. Nehru hated Linlithgow. Linlithgow hated Nehru and Gandhi both. He is just before Linlithgow, Wavell, and then comes Mountbatten. And basically, he is the single-handed reason why the partition happened. Why the partition happened. Single-handed reason. He made the Muslim League from zero to hero between 1936 and 1945. Curzon is nothing in front of him. Curzon is bad. No viceroy is good. But what is the worst is him. Not separate electorates, Minto, Morley, forget. he will literally create or literally state sponsor the Muslim League to become what it was. And I'll give you this understanding. If you look at the election data, and I'll discuss everything with you. If you look at the election data of 1936, the Muslim League in Muslims only had 3% vote share. But when it came to 1946 election, this was technically 89%. And this was all the karamat of Lilithgo. That the Muslim League, who had 3% vote share, managed 3 seats on all the seats which were reserved for Muslims, to becoming the single largest party within Muslims. So we'll discuss that. I'm getting my point where I'm going with this. This is a story which nobody talks about, which is the British role in creating the Muslim League. The Muslim League was footnote. INC could crush it like this, but the British created it. Okay. Now, the Farisi movement, some random, again, standard names are there. I will put it in front of you. Don't have to get into the details. Farisi, founder is Haji Shatullah of Faridpur, that is why Farisi. It's again a peasant movement. We'll discuss it again tomorrow. But the most known personality, please remember, is Dudu Mian. And he is the one who is linked to the Farisi movement the most. It is under his leadership, which is the son of the founder, that the Farisis become very important. And his ideology was also interesting, which is all men are equal and that all land belongs to God and there is no one who can levy tax. Though we put them in revivalist category of Muslim reform, they technically are peasant movements. They technically are peasant movements, but with a religious character. Why would they use religion in a peasant movement? Don't forget the founder. Forget the founder. You remember Dudu Mian. Why would they use religion in a peasant movement? Very good. Very good. Perfect. Yes. The only thing which people can connect to is religion. So religion is used as a form of binder, a glue to unite them. Though the peasant movement is more important, religious character is given to it. The last of the major revivalists, which is Deoband school, still exists. It's an orthodox section of the Muslim ulama who stressed that traditional Islamic learning is important. They preach 2 basic things, that pure teaching of Quran should be there and Hadith among the Muslims. Again, this is a tradition of interpretation within Islam and keep the spirit of struggle alive against the British rulers. So basically, when the Wahhabis will go, Deoband is going to go after the British. In 1866, Deoband movement was founded by Muhammad Qasim Nanotwi and Gangohi. They will talk about a school curricula which will be pure Islamic religion, shutting out education, Western education in English education. Aim was to regenerate the Muslim community and train the next Muslim leaders. So it's a properly pure revivalist movement, talking about going back to the original form of Islam. Thereafter comes Ahmadiyya. Ahmadiyya, again, Punjab movement, takes its name from Mirza Ghulam Ahmad, born in the Punjab sector. And he talks about a totally different concept. He's in between reformist and revivalism because he believed that he is the Masiha which was prophesied within the Quran itself by Prophet Muhammad. And he believed that Muslim religion had deteriorated to a point that God himself had sent him to remove all the corruption within Islam and create a new order of Islam. So it's both a newish thing, but also something which is linked to the larger Islamic tradition. Again, A lot of you will be thinking so many, just standard name, 1 to learn them each day. It will not be a problem. When it's as I always said, history like a pizza. If you will not cut it into pieces, you will choke on it. So I am trying to tell you, cut it, smaller pieces. You will be able to digest it. Trust me. Every year, why do I know that you will react this way? Every year, every batch comes, everybody says the same thing. But by the end of it, everybody understands first the futility of this whole section. And second, if you will actually disciplined way practice it, by the end of it, you will say, yes, sir, I was able to understand, I'm able to remember. So trust me, it works. The table system works. Can we agree to this? The main level understanding is going to be about reasons, which we already discussed yesterday only. Okay? You don't have to understand. Larger connotation is everybody's talking about the same thing. That is the basic point. Revivalists also, reformists also, everybody wants the same thing. Facts are what are the problem here. Now, he also claimed that all major world religions are propagated by God himself. Basically, it was God's plan to establish Islam so that it can take all other religions. Standard revivalist concept. Now, last two things, and then we end for today. Last two things, 10 minutes I will take from you, is Sikh. Sikh movement that basically Sikh, what is called this Nirankari and the Akali. These are three only, right? Can I do this? Come on. Can we do this last moment of cooperation from you so that I can end this theme? No pain for tomorrow, peasant and tribal tomorrow. I need your support. I need your consent. Can I go forward? I know you are already dead. But just listen to me. Just listen to me. Can we do this? You're not even ready to write yes. Yes, I've seen 2-3 yeses. Very good. Okay. Now, Sikh movement. The first one is Baba Dayal Das. He's a contemporary of Maharaja Ranjit Singh. And he's the first reformer. So Baba Dayal Das talks about the fact that there's one formless God, hence the concept of Nirankari. That yes, the Guru Granth Sahib is important, but our God is Nirankari or Nirgun. So he preached against idol worship of human gurus and their tombs and graves. He just said that we will not go to anybody's dargah, we will not go to anybody's tomb, we will not go to anyone. We will not go to symbols of gurus. We will study and preach the Guru Granth Sahib, but our God is formless. Our God is formless. That is why the movement itself is called Nirankari. Nirankari. So he introduced the concept of, very important concept of what is called Anant Karat, which is the very simple way in which till today, in front of the Guru Granth Sahib, the Sikhs marry. Rather than the whole elaborate rituals which happen within the Hinduistic fold, easy marriages was something which the Nirankaris introduced. And very important still today. If I'm not wrong, every marriage within the Sikhs happened under this whole concept itself, which is keeping it. Guru Granth Sahib is the book. We'll talk about Sikhism, medieval India. The Guru Granth Sahib is the eternal Guru. Now, the Namdhari or the Kuka movement is again 1840s. We'll discuss it again tomorrow when we'll talk about peasant movements and the concept of tribal movements. But it was started by Bhagat Jawaharmal and Baba Balak Singh from Western Punjab. They are called Kuka. They are called Kuka because when they are in their ecstasy, when they are in the moment of adrenaline, when they are full of what we call as energy, they gave out a shrek, a kukkan, a call, and that call is called the kukkan, and that is why the Kuka movement. The most important personality here, that is I've already marked it in yellow, Baba Ram Singh, so that you don't have to go into the data. And he preached the concept of one God, attacked social evils, And he also popularized the concept of simple, inexpensive Anand marriages. So again, this core ideology remains the same. It's just that how Baba Ram Singh made it so important in the larger context. Now last, which is Singh Sabha movement and what we call as the concept of Akali. These two things are related to each other. So the Singh Sabha movement saw what happened. If you remember, in the first Anglo-Sikh war, there were two major treaties signed, Lahore and Bhairawal. And somehow the Singh Sabha movement was coming out of the fact that why is that the eternal Sikhs, the mighty Sikh empire was taken by the British. And therefore this was the redevelopment of the Sikhs around the concept of education. That they believe that the lack of education is something which is destroying the Sikh community itself. That is why the two basic objective was to make the Sikh community use the Western enlightenment and modern education to westernize itself, but also to make sure that, you see Arya Samaj written here, to make sure that Christian missionaries and the Shuddhi movement could not reconvert the concept of Sikhs. And this is why I was telling you that there's a lot of friction which the Arya Samaj develops in this area, wherein even Brahmo Samaj talks about Brahmoism leaving the Sikh community, leaving your concept of Sikhism and going for Brahmoism. So be it the Muslim, be it the Hinduistic, or be it the Christian, the point is now there's a new type of conflict starts to develop in the Punjab sector. But the Singh Sabha movement, just remember only one thing, education for the Sikh community to go forward. And last is the Akali movement, which still has a lot of impact on every Sikh till today, which is also called the Gurdwara reform movement. See, basically before the Akali movement, Gurdwaras, everybody knows what is a Gurdwara? Gurdwara is a very important institution of worship. It's the temple in a way. And basically it's the holy temple of Sikhs. And Gurdwaras were not controlled in a centralized way. Every Sikh Gurdwara was controlled by a Mahant, an Udasi Mahant who is hereditary, meaning I am the Mahant, my son is going to be Mahant, son Mahant. And the biggest problem which they were seeing was that in order to survive, they were literally becoming the loyalists of the British. So the British were giving them patronage, and basically the Sikh community was internally getting corrupted because these Udasi Mahants were taking British support to support themselves. So against the Udasi Mahants, what started is technically called the Akali movement. And it starts during the non-cooperation period, 1921-22 period. And their demands will be very clear that we want centralized control and secular control. And therefore, the Shromani Gurdwara Prabandhak Committee, the SGPC, which still today is an apex body which controls all Gurdwaras in India, was created via the Sikh Gurdwara Act of 1922. And the Akali movement was about taking out the Gurdwaras out of these Mahants' control and making all appointments centralized and in a democratic manner. Other than that, this is the end of it. Thank you. First and foremost point. I know your brain is dead. See, I told you. It is like this only. This area is like this. Now, please listen to me very clearly. You can make tables for different religions also. That will help you. Now, please listen to me. What do you do with this? What I want you to do is that, firstly, don't worry for the next 1 hour about this topic. But once you get this annotated PPT, it will take you maximum 1 hour. and make a table so that you finish this topic today only. It is already killing you. I told you there will be pain. That is the basic point. Some of you find it interesting. Very good. Very glad to hear that. I want you to systematize the information as quickly as possible so that it goes into here. And second is, once you've made the table, don't open module number 9. Don't open module number 9. All this information just needs to be condensed, be it Hindu, be it Sikh, be it Muslim, or be it Parsi. It will be just 3-4 tables and your task is done. What have we done? I'll just revise something with you. Let's brainstorm and let's just once bring everything together. Revivalism, and I'll not write it down, I'll just write it in rough. Revivalism or reformism, Brahmo Samaj, the whole story of Brahmo Samaj of this, Brahmo Samaj of that, Sadharan Brahmo Samaj, Adi Brahmo Samaj, Kesab Chandra Sen. Thereafter, the concept of you have Rabindranath Tagore and this and that. Then you have, and if you want, I can give you a question also to practice, just revise everything with me. Thereafter, we did the concept of Dirozio. We then did Prarthana Samaj. Then we did Malabari. Then we did what we call as the concept of Pandita Ramabai. And then N.M. Joshi and Agnihotri and Gopal Krishna Gokhale and Swami Vivekanand. Thereafter, Swami Dayanand Saraswati, Arya Samaj. And simply, this is the larger story there. Maximum add Deva Samaj and Dharma Samaj. Then Parsi, only one. I can't even pronounce it, but only one. Dadabhai Naroji. And then second, then in this you have Aligarh movement, Deoband, Wahhabi, and Ahmadiyya, T2 Mir, and thereafter in Sikh, Singh Sabha, Namdhari, Nirankari, and Akali. That's it. Basically, maximum 30 to 35 are there. Now, let's try to see how much do you remember? How much do you remember? So there are 8 I will do with you together. And it's a pair. It's a pair. So let me write down the organizations. Four is missing. Very good. So my mind is also shutting. Brahmo Samaj. Then add one more here. We can add Malabari. Thereafter, we can go into Aligarh movement. And last, suggest one to me. Malabari, Wahhabi, Akali, Arya Samaj. Mix and match I'm trying to do. We could say T2 Mir. Not T2 Mir, but rather Deoband. We've already taken one of that. Tattva Bodhani, Prarthana Samaj. Why not? Prarthana Samaj. Now I'm going to write one random characteristic, and you have to just tell me if I've written the right thing in front of that person. So are all pairs correctly matched or not? That is what we are doing here. So Arya Samaj, the Tell me how many are correctly matched. No, not all. All are not matched. All are not matched. No issues. I'll do it with you. You just see if you're correct or not. Arya Samaj, DAV colleges, correct. Akali movement, Anant marriages, no. That is Singh Sabha and Nirankari. Akali movement is Gurdwara reform. Wahhabi sedition, yes. Malabari poet, yes. Ramakrishna Mission, Belur Math, yes. Debanat, correct. Aligarh, education as a mover. And this is incorrect. So basically 2 and 8 are incorrect. Anand marriages is not something which the Akali movement was known for. Akali movement is known for Gurdwara Prabandhak Committee. 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 are correct. 2 and 8 are incorrect. Make sense? One more question you want? I'll now use the name of the founders. Yes? Great. Anand marriages means simple marriages, not like Hinduistic marriages. Very good. So let's do founders. Let's do founders. Right. Dadabhai Naroji, I'll take 1 more minute of yours, don't worry. Dadabhai Naroji, I have to think of them, that is why it's taking me time. And thereafter, we can go for whether Malabari and we can go for not Periyar because there's no organization there. Well, very good. Jyotiba Phule. See, you are suggesting to me. Very good. Now match them. Now match them. The Seva Sadan, then Rust Guftar, thereafter Prarthana Sabha, Satyashodhak Samaj, and Arya Samaj. If you're able to do it, then the purpose of this discussion is done. You take your time, no issues. Take your time. More or less, you are writing 4, 1, 6, 3, 2, 5. Yes, you can leave. If you don't have, you can go where you want to. If I'm just brainstorming, simple. MG Ranade, Prarthana Samaj, Bhai Parmanand, Jat Path, Swami Dayanand Saraswati, Arya Samaj, Dadabhai Naroji, Rashid Koftar, Malabari, Seva Sadan, Jyotiba Phule, Satyashodhak Samaj. Done, everyone? So we've revised also. If you're able to do this much, you're already more or less 90% there. So thank you. I'll see you tomorrow. Peasant and tribal movement. Interesting, but again, a little bit factual. Last class of factualness. and we will thereafter go to 1857 on Friday, one of the most important in that sense. I've tried to make this as much as engaging as possible. There is nothing more in this. Don't get caught up in any other details. Good night. Take care. Thank you. You've been very